The crying at Gate 17, the airport was buzzing, like it always was on Friday afternoons. People rushed through security checks, others stood in line for coffee or snacks, and many just stared at their phones, lost in their own world. It was the usual scene at Gate 17 of Los Angeles International Airport. But in the middle of all that noise, one sound cut through everything, an infant's uncontrollable crying. Some passengers frowned. Others looked away with irritation. A few even whispered sharp comments under their breath. But the young mother holding the baby was doing her best. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were red and tired. Her hands trembled slightly as she rocked the baby back and forth, whispering soft words that no one could hear. She had a ticket just like everyone else. She had waited in line just like everyone else. But something about her made people act like she didn't belong. Her clothes were old and wrinkled. Her baby had spit up on her shoulder, and she had no time to clean it off. She looked completely overwhelmed, as if the world had given her too much too soon. Keanu Reeves sat quietly near the window, wearing a plain black hoodie and jeans. No one noticed him. He liked it that way. He had arrived early for his flight to New York, hoping to enjoy a quiet trip after a long month of filming. He sipped black coffee and watched people, the way he always did. Calmly, silently, his attention shifted when he heard a sharp voice. A flight attendant dressed neatly in her uniform was speaking to the young mom. "Ma'am, you'll need to quiet your baby before boarding," the attendant said, not unkindly, but not kindly either. "We've had complaints." The young mother's face fell. She looked around, embarrassed, trying to hush her baby. But the child, maybe just 6 months old, only cried louder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He's just hungry. And we're late. And Her voice cracked. She had nothing more to say. Only tears followed. Keanu stood up without saying a word. He walked over slowly, not rushing, not drawing attention. When he reached the mother, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Can I help carry something for you?" he asked softly. The mother blinked, confused. "Your bag," he said. "It looks heavy." A few people turned to look. Was that who they thought it was? Keanu Reeves? She hesitated, but then nodded. "Thank you." He picked up her bag with ease and followed her to the gate. She handed over her ticket. Economy class, back of the plane. The agent looked annoyed at the crying baby again, but said nothing. Keanu stepped forward, pulled out his first-class ticket, and handed it to the agent. "Can you switch this seat to her name?" he asked. "I'll take her seat in economy." The agent looked stunned. "Sir, are you sure?" Keanu smiled. "Completely." The crowd behind them grew quiet. The mom's mouth fell open. "No, I can't let you. That's too much." "It's not," he said. "You need space. Your baby needs peace. That seat will give you both that." She started to cry, quietly this time, not from stress, but from the shock of kindness, something she hadn't felt in a long while. They swapped the tickets. Keanu handed the baby a small red bracelet he wore, shaped like a string of little wooden beads. "He can play with this," he said, smiling. As they boarded the plane, whispers followed them. That was Keanu Reeves. Did you see what he did? He gave up first class for a crying baby. Inside the aircraft, Keanu took his new seat near the back. The mom was now in first class, her baby slowly calming down in her arms. She leaned back in the comfortable chair for the first time, feeling like maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. But the real story hadn't even begun yet. Behind them, 2 passengers in first class looked at each other with cold eyes. They had been watching Keanu closely, and they didn't like what they saw. "Did you get the photo?" one whispered. "Yeah," the other replied. "Now let's see if he really is who people think he is." They weren't fans. They weren't reporters. They were something else, and Keanu had no idea what was coming next. The passengers with hidden eyes. The plane cruised smoothly above the clouds, cutting through soft blue skies as if nothing had happened. Flight attendants walked up and down the aisle offering water, snacks, and warm towels. Soft music played in the background of first class. But in the economy section, Keanu Reeves sat quietly by the window, his seat a little cramped, his knees brushing against the tray in front of him. He didn't mind. He never did. Comfort wasn't something he chased. Instead, he leaned back slightly and glanced out the window, letting his thoughts drift. He felt peace, the kind that came from doing something small that mattered. The crying had stopped. The baby was asleep now, curled gently in his mother's arms. The soft hum of the engines and the warm light helped the young woman relax for the first time in days. She had no idea who the man was who gave up his seat. And even if she had known, she wouldn't have believed it. But not everyone on that plane was looking for peace. Row 1A and 1B in first class were occupied by two men who didn't fit in with the rest of the passengers. They wore expensive clothes and carried the look of businessmen, but their eyes never rested. Their conversation was quiet, but intense. "We'll post the photo tonight," said the man in 1A, tapping on his tablet. "Make it look like he was trying to show off," said the other. "Turn the story. Twist it." "Already working on it," he replied with a smirk. "Just a matter of headlines. All it takes is one story, one doubt, and people stop believing." These men weren't strangers to the world of influence. They had been in media for years, controlling stories, twisting truths, breaking reputations for the right price. And this time, they had been paid very well to bring Keanu Reeves down. Back in economy, Keanu leaned forward and reached under his seat. His backpack was there, small and worn, with a faded sticker on it from a motorbike trip through Chile. He unzipped it and pulled out a thin paperback book. The pages were folded, the cover faded. It was a book about compassion, something he always kept with him. As he read, his mind drifted to the mother in first class. He hoped she was resting. He didn't expect anything in return. He didn't want a thank you. That moment at the gate, it reminded him of his own mother, how she once struggled on a train with him as a baby, crying, tired, and surrounded by judgment. No one helped her. He had never forgotten the look in her eyes, and so when he saw that woman today, he just knew. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, excuse me." A flight attendant stood beside him holding a small note. "This is from the lady in first class," she whispered. "She said it's important." Keanu unfolded the note. "I don't know who you are, but thank you. You didn't just give me a seat, you gave me a moment to breathe. My name is Emma. If we never speak again, just know you helped save my strength today." He smiled gently and folded the note, placing it inside his book. Meanwhile, at the front of the plane, one of the two men quietly slipped into the lavatory and made a call, using a secure satellite line. "He's on board," he whispered. "We've started phase 1. Prepare for the drop when we land." On the other side of the call, a deep voice replied, "Do not fail. He ruined everything we planned last year. This time, we take everything from him." Keanu had no idea that he was being watched, not by fans, not by paparazzi, but by men who had once been part of a global investment group he had exposed. Years ago, he had quietly helped a friend bring evidence to the public, exposing how they were stealing from small business owners through fake loans and contracts. Keanu had never spoken of it publicly. He didn't need attention, he just wanted justice. But the people he had exposed never forgot. The plane began to descend toward New York. The skyline appeared through the clouds, tall and shining under the golden sunset. The baby in first class stirred. Emma gently kissed his forehead. Her heart felt lighter. She thought of her late husband, how he always told her that good people still exist. She never imagined one of those people would find her at an airport gate. But soon, the kindness she received would be tested in the cruelest way. As the wheels touched the runway and the plane taxied to the gate, one of the men in first class smiled. Time to change the story. He sent the photo to dozens of fake accounts with a simple caption. Actor Keanu Reeves makes a scene at the gate, demands special attention. But was it just for cameras? Within minutes, the post had over 10,000 views, and Keanu didn't even know it had begun. The lie goes viral. The terminal lights flickered as passengers stepped off the plane one by one. Some rushed forward, eager to collect their bags and beat the evening traffic. Others took their time, stretching legs stiff from the long flight. The baby in Emma's arms had finally stopped crying, now snoring softly against her chest. She looked rested, thankful, as if the world had finally given her a moment of peace. Keanu waited near the back of the plane, giving space to others. He always moved like that, quiet, polite, never rushing. When he finally stepped out into the gate, the cool blast of airport air hit his face. He pulled up his hoodie slightly and adjusted his backpack. Emma stood near the windows, looking around nervously as people passed. She caught his eye and smiled, walking over quickly. "You didn't have to wait," she said, her voice still soft but brighter than before. "I didn't want to leave without saying goodbye," Keanu replied. "And your baby? He's sleeping now." "You did great." Emma's eyes shimmered. "You don't know what that means to me. I haven't felt safe in a long time." Keanu looked at her with a kindness that didn't need words. He nodded and they stood in silence for a few seconds. Just then his phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again, non-stop. Keanu pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Dozens of messages flooded his inbox. Friends, his assistant, even old colleagues, from past films. "What happened at the airport? Is the story true? Are you okay?" His eyes narrowed. "Something's wrong," he murmured. He opened his browser and typed in his name. There it was, a blurry photo from the airport gate. The angle made, it looked like he was pointing at staff, raising his voice. The caption below screamed, "Keanu Reeves demands first-class seat be given to him." Chaos at gate 17, his heart sank. Emma saw his face change. "What's going on?" she asked. He showed her the screen. Her mouth opened in shock. That's not what happened. That's a lie." More headlines followed. Twisted versions of the truth, each more dramatic than the last. Actor uses crying baby for attention. Was this just another stunt by Hollywood's kind guy? Passengers outraged by Keanu's behavior at airport. "No," Emma whispered. "I saw you give up your seat. I saw what you did for us. Why would they say that?" Keanu's face stayed calm, but inside something heavy grew in his chest. "Someone's behind this," he said. "This isn't just gossip. It's targeted." Emma blinked. "Why would anyone target you?" Keanu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to a bench and sat down, pulling out his phone again. He checked the original post. It had been shared by an anonymous account, but the pattern was familiar. A type of digital smear campaign he had seen before, one that moved like a machine. A sudden voice pulled him back. "Mr. Reeves?" A woman in a gray suit approached. She held a clipboard and wore a badge that read, "Airport Authority, Customer Relations." "We've had several complaints about an incident involving you at the gate earlier," she said, her tone rehearsed. "We may need to review footage and get statements." Keanu nodded slowly. "Of course. But before that, maybe you should check the footage yourself. And maybe speak with this young mother. She saw everything." Emma stepped forward. "I can tell you exactly what happened," she said firmly. But the woman didn't look interested. She just scribbled something on her pad and walked away. Keanu sighed. Emma sat beside him. "What can I do?" she asked. Keanu looked at her with a small smile. "You already did enough. You trusted me." But deep down, he knew this wouldn't go away easily. The two men from first class had already exited through a side door. One of them was now speaking on a private call. "The story's catching fire," he said. "Next step?" The voice on the other end replied coldly. "Leak the hotel footage. It's old, but it'll raise more questions." "Won't people find out it's fake?" the man asked. "They won't care," the voice said. "Doubt is enough." Keanu and Emma finally reached baggage claim. Her suitcase was small, worn down, with a yellow ribbon tied around the handle. Keanu waited with her, still reading the growing storm on his phone. "They're turning everything upside down," he muttered. Emma bit her lip. "What happens now?" Keanu stood tall. "I don't know yet, but I'm not hiding." He pulled out a small notebook from his backpack. Inside were names, contacts, journalists he trusted, people who valued truth over clicks. But before he could make the first call, his phone rang. It was an old friend, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. When Keanu answered, the voice said one thing: "They're not just coming for your name, they're coming for your past." The name they tried to erase, Keanu Reeves, walked slowly through the crowded terminal, phone still pressed to his ear, heart beating heavier with each step. The voice on the other end belonged to Elliot Shin, a former investigative journalist, who had once helped Keanu expose a corrupt tech group stealing from small creators. They hadn't spoken in nearly 6 years. For Elliot to call now meant only one thing: this was bigger than a smear campaign. "They've had this planned for months," Elliot said, his voice low and sharp. "I recognize the account that posted the first photo. It's one of the same shells used in the Cambridge corpse scandal. They're calling it Project Mirror. They take kind acts and twist them. Their goal isn't to destroy your career, Keanu. It's to destroy your legacy." Keanu rubbed his temple. Emma and her baby were there. They know what happened. "Truth doesn't go viral," Elliot replied. "Doubt does. Lies do. Confusion spreads faster than facts." Keanu glanced at Emma, who was holding her son while speaking with someone. On the phone, her sister maybe, or a friend. The little boy looked up and reached for his mother's face. She smiled and kissed his forehead. In that moment, Keanu felt it again, that deep pull to protect. Not just them, but something bigger. "What do they want this time, yo?" he asked. "Same thing they always want. Silence. Revenge. You stopped their expansion in 3 cities last time. Millions lost. They want to make sure you're not there to stop them again." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then we won't let them win." He ended the call, took a deep breath, and walked back to Emma. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" he asked. She looked startled. "We were going to take a cab to a small motel near the hospital. My baby has a checkup tomorrow. I'm saving what little I have." He cut her off gently. "Stay at my friend's apartment tonight. It's safe, close to the hospital and already paid for." "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because you didn't deserve what happened at the airport, and you definitely don't deserve what's coming next." Emma nodded, confused but grateful. "Okay." Outside the airport, cameras were already gathering. Someone had tipped off a few gossip pages. Questions were being shouted. "Mr. Reeves, did you argue with staff? Is it true you demanded a baby be removed from first class? How much did you pay for that scene?" Keanu didn't respond. Instead, he shielded Emma and helped her into a black car waiting by the curb. He got in after her, and the car pulled away, leaving the chaos behind. In a quiet apartment on the Upper West Side, Emma sat on the couch, her baby asleep in a small portable crib. The walls were filled with books and photos from travels around the world. It belonged to Elliot, who had offered it without question. "You can rest here," Keanu said. "I have to go meet someone." "Will you be okay?" she asked. He smiled, faintly. "I've been through worse." As he stepped out into the night, his mind drifted to a memory. His younger sister crying after her art school was defunded by a shell corporation that called itself a creative partner, but stole funds meant for scholarships. That had been Keanu's first brush with the shadowy network that now haunted him. He had exposed them, and they had disappeared. Now they were back, wearing different names, attacking from new angles. Keanu met Elliot at a quiet underground cafe, where the music was soft and the lights low. Elliot looked older, his hair grayer, his eyes sharper. "They've set up a new target list," he said, placing a folder on the table. "You're not the only one. They're going after teachers, nurses, creators, anyone who stands for something real." "Why now?" Keanu asked. "Because real kindness scares them," Elliot replied. "You gave up a seat for a crying mother, and that one act reminded people of what we've lost in this world. They can't allow that. It disrupts their business." Keanu opened the folder. Inside were printouts of posts, links, photos, even a fake video they planned to leak, using deepfake technology to make it look like he yelled at a flight attendant. It was carefully timed and cruelly crafted. "They're launching it tomorrow morning," Elliot said. "You have until sunrise." "To do what?" Keanu asked. "To get the truth out first." Keanu thought for a moment. Then he reached for his phone and called someone he hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade, Rachel Sato, a documentary filmmaker whose work once shook Congress. "Rachel, it's Keanu. I need your help, tonight." Meanwhile, across town, the two men from First Class entered a tall glass building. A giant digital board showed trending stories. At the top, Keanu Reeves, meltdown at airport. A voice behind them spoke coldly. "He's moving too slow. Crush him before sunrise." Keanu didn't know how long the night would be. He didn't know if the truth would be enough. But he knew this. He would not let a single mother be used to destroy something good. Not if he could. Still fight, and soon, the world would hear her voice too. Before the sun rises, the sky over New York was deep and dark, with only a sliver of moonlight breaking through scattered clouds. The city never slept, but that night felt heavier, as if the buildings themselves were holding their breath. In a small apartment not far from Central Park, Emma sat awake on the couch. Her baby had finally gone quiet, but her mind couldn't. She scrolled through her phone, heart sinking lower with every headline she read. Actor fakes kindness for camera. Keanu Reeves caught staging airport stunt. Passenger claims. Baby was used in first-class trick. None of it was true. And yet, it was everywhere. She wanted to speak up, to scream, to tell the world what really happened. But who would believe her? She was just a tired single mom with no followers, no platform, and no voice in a world that only listened to noise. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu. "Be ready to speak your truth. Someone will be there soon." Emma didn't know what he meant, but she trusted him. Across the city, in an old warehouse turned creative studio, Rachel Sato was setting up camera gear with quick, practiced movements. Her long, dark hair was tied back, her eyes sharp behind thick-rimmed glasses. She had once filmed war zones. Now she was preparing for a different kind of battle. "You want raw truth?" she asked Keanu. "Then we film now. No script, no makeup, just you and the truth." Keanu nodded. He sat on the stool in front of the camera, hands on his knees, eyes steady. The lights flicked on. Rachel raised her hand. "Rolling." Keanu looked into the lens and spoke. "You've seen a photo. You've read a story. And maybe right now you're wondering who to believe. So let me tell you what happened. Not for clicks, not for headlines, but for a mother who deserved more." He told the whole story. The crying at the gate, the exhausted mother, the trade of tickets, the kindness that came without cameras, without followers, without even knowing her name. He paused, then looked down. "But this isn't about me. It's about what we've become. When a small act of kindness can be twisted into a lie, what does that say about our world?" Rachel nodded from behind the camera. "And her name," he continued, "is Emma. She's real. Her son is real. And so is what happened." He stood up and looked away. "She'll speak for herself now." Emma arrived at the studio 20 minutes later. Her face was pale, eyes wide. She was nervous, holding her baby close. Keanu met her at the door. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Only if you want to." Emma took a deep breath. "I do." Inside, Rachel offered her tea, helped her settle in, and turned on the cameras. Emma didn't speak like a movie star. Her voice cracked. She fumbled her words. But she spoke with something no viral lie could match. Truth. "I was tired. I was scared. And he saw me. Really saw me. Not as a problem, not as noise, but as a person." Her words, simple and honest, cut deeper than any headline. The video was edited quickly. No effects, no music, just real voices. Keanu's team posted it on his social platforms just after 3 hours a.m. The title, "The Truth About Gate 17. At first, the video struggled against the algorithm, but then, One comment changed everything. It came from a nurse who had once been helped by Keanu in a hospital parking lot. She had never spoken about it until now. Then a filmmaker who had worked with him. Then a retired teacher who said he once paid for her daughter's tuition anonymously. The comment section filled with real stories, ones the world had never heard. Truth, it seemed, had a voice after all. By sunrise, the video had over 5 million views. Emma's words were everywhere, and the hashtag, #Drichis, I believe, Emma began trending worldwide. Meanwhile, the fake accounts that had spread the lies began to fall apart. Elliot and Rachel traced them back, uncovering paid bots and shell identities. Media watchdog groups picked it up. The fake stories were pulled down, and the smear campaign was exposed for what it was. At 8:45 a.m., a major news anchor publicly apologized on live TV. "We got it wrong," she said. "The real story wasn't about scandal. It was about a man who gave up comfort for compassion." Keanu watched from a small diner window, sipping coffee alone, still in the same hoodie. He didn't smile. Not yet, because he knew the battle wasn't over. He had cleared his name. Yes. But something deeper had changed. The world had seen how fast a kind act could be poisoned, how quickly the truth could be buried. But they had also seen something else. They had seen a man stand back up. They had seen a mother speak. They had seen people choose to believe what was real, not what was sold. Keanu's phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emma. "Thank you for giving me a voice," he replied simply. "No, you already had one. You just needed the world to hear it." Louder than lies, the morning sun poured through the windows of the quiet apartment where Emma stood holding her son, wrapped in a soft blanket. The baby blinked sleepily at the golden light, completely unaware that his mother had just become a symbol of something far bigger than either of them. Emma's phone buzzed non-stop. Calls from journalists, messages from strangers offering support, and notifications from thousands of people around the world who had watched her video and believed every word. Some told her their own stories, moments when no one helped them, times they felt invisible. And now, they said, they felt seen because of her. She didn't know what to say to all of it. But she did know one thing. She hadn't lied. She hadn't exaggerated. And she hadn't expected anything in return. She simply told the truth, that somehow had changed everything. Keanu sat in Elliot's apartment sipping tea, his hoodie pulled low as always. The room was filled with the soft tapping of computer keys. Elliot was finishing a long report, one that detailed the smear campaign, exposed its funders, and tracked the online attacks back to a media manipulation group that had been blacklisted in 5 countries. Rachel stood nearby, checking video uploads and replying to media requests. She had gone quiet, deep in thought. "It wasn't just a win," she said softly. "It was a warning." Keanu looked up. To who? To the ones who thought truth was too quiet to fight back. Just then, Elliot looked up from his laptop. "They're going to try something else. This group doesn't quit. They'll find another way in." Keanu nodded. "Then we stay ready." Emma and her baby soon arrived. The baby now wore a clean set of clothes, gifted by a local family who had seen her story online and sent a package of baby essentials. Emma looked different, not just rested, but stronger, like someone who had walked through fire and realized she was still standing. "I didn't think the truth would matter," she said, sitting down next to Keanu. "But it did." He looked at her, eyes gentle. "It always matters. Sometimes, it just takes time." Emma glanced at Rachel and Elliot, then at the open laptop where thousands of comments poured in by the second. "They're asking if we'll do a follow-up," she said. "An interview, maybe even a documentary." Keanu shrugged. "If you're ready." Emma looked down at her baby, who had started chewing on one of his tiny fists. "I want him to grow up in a world where kindness isn't twisted, where helping someone isn't called a publicity stunt." Keanu smiled. "Then let's build that world." The documentary was released 2 weeks later. It was called Louder Than Lies. It featured raw footage from the airport cameras, proof that Keanu had helped without a camera crew, without asking for anything. It showed Emma's full story, her struggles as a young widow, her decision to travel alone for her son's surgery, and the moment at gate 17 when a stranger changed everything. Millions watched it. Millions shared it, but more importantly, millions remembered it. Because it wasn't just about Keanu. It wasn't just about Emma. It was about every single person who had ever done the right thing quietly, without expecting credit, and been met with doubt. The documentary was later used in schools to teach about digital misinformation. It was screened at festivals and featured in human rights panels. But more than any award, what mattered most was the way people responded. Online, a movement began. People started posting their own stories of kindness using the hashtag #LouderThanLies. Retired soldier who helped rebuild homes after hurricanes, a teen who used their savings to feed stray dogs, a teacher who walked 2 miles every day to tutor children in poor villages. None of them had been noticed before. But now, they were seen. And in every one of those stories, someone would mention what started it all: a crying baby, a mother, and a man who gave up his seat. Sometime later, on a quiet evening, Keanu visited a small bookstore tucked between 2 cafes in Brooklyn. He walked to the back shelf, where he had once donated a rare edition of a book on empathy and service. He picked up a worn copy of the same title and found a folded note inside. It was from the owner. "I watched your story. Thank you for reminding us what real humanity looks like." Keanu smiled and bought the book again. Outside, people passed him without noticing. The way he liked it. No cameras, no headlines, just one man walking under the streetlight carrying a book about kindness. And somewhere far away, a little boy slept in his mother's arms, never knowing the world once tried to turn him into a lie, only to end up proving that the truth, when spoken from the heart, can echo louder than any noise in the world.